Hello everyone, once again, and welcome to another ravishing, entertaining, rather, episode of this little YouTube blog that I've got going on that doesn't really have much of a name in its own right. I've called it a lot of things throughout the week, or throughout the many years that I've had it, but the name is irrelevant, I suppose. We're 40 seconds in and I'm still rambling about something stupid. Today actually, I shouldn't say this week, today actually, we're going to be talking about AEW. This will be the first video that I've done on AEW since their inception, since they actually have gained some ground in the wrestling world. Just got done brushing my teeth, I'm sorry. But anyway, AEW, well, as of right now, AEW is really made up of three groups. The Inner Circle, led by Chris Jericho. The Elite, led by Cody Rhodes. Or John Moxley. Could be Rhodes or Moxley. And is it the Darkness? No, it's the Dark Order. My fault. I thought it was the Darkness and I didn't know why. Led by Luke Harper. Oh, Brody Lee. Did not mean to say Luke Harper. Sorry. Still getting used to this. Nonetheless, what I mean to say is, out of these three groups, all look strong. All look dominant. All look like they could possibly benefit from being in a group. Not often in the wrestling industry, let alone anywhere, do you see groups of people who are mutually beneficial to joining a group. Rather, most of the time you see one group taking over the entire organization. In the case of the WWE, you would have D-Generation X, the NWO, which, by the way, got out of hand. It got to the point to where you didn't know who was in the NWO and who wasn't. And in TNA, you had the Fortune 4. In AWA, you had the Four Horsemen. You had a lot of dominant groups in WWE. You actually had another one known as Evolution, and Evolution spanned many generations. Up until, I don't want to say it spanned many generations, but at the same time it did, because Ric Flair was a generation, Dave Batista was the new generation, Randy Orton at the time was the new generation, Triple H was the generation that had just passed. And to put these four men together was absolutely somewhat poetic, to show the group's evolution, or the evolution of the business in a whole, from new to old. Nonetheless, today we will be discussing about the New Order. The Dark Order, excuse me, I don't know where I'm at today, I guess. The Dark Order, the Inner Circle, and the Elite. Three dominant groups who practically run roughshod through AEW. And the fact is that within these three groups, they all have their own stars, and they all have their own firepower. In most wrestling groups, you don't really see that, and neither group is giving an inch. It's not really about oh, we're the most dominant tag team, and then they show up one week, lay out somebody who nobody knew who they were in the first place, jobbers, and they end up saying, oh yeah, well, we proved it last week whenever we defeated those indie guys, or those people that you've never heard of, you know. They didn't exactly prove anything, especially when you're going up against someone that no one's ever heard of. That's something I never understood. Like Braun Strowman, for instance, whenever they were first booking him, what they would do is they would put him against these little guys, maybe about the size of 10 Gatorade bottles stacked, you know, on top of each other. That would make Braun Strowman's opponent. Braun Strowman, on the other hand, he's like, if you was to take 13 Gatorade bottles and put them, you know, stack them on top of each other. So he's like two of those little small guys makes one Braun Strowman, because Strowman is like 535 pounds, and these little guys are like 250, 130 if they're lucky. 250 if they're lucky, I should say. 130 on their... I mean, he'd just pick them up, throw them around for a few minutes, and then say, "Roar! I'm not finished with you." Brr. Like a big Neanderthal without a brain. But with this, however, you don't really have anything like that. It's not like you have one group that's less dominant than the next. The Inner Circle, the Dark Order, and the Elite. These three groups are practically running roughshod over each other, getting one over on the other group. You know, like the Elite might take out one of the Dark Order's members, but then the Dark Order takes out one of the Elite's members and holds them at gunpoint and says, if you don't stop taking out our members, we're going to shoot your guy in the head. And then the next thing you know, you got the Inner Circle coming out practically saying, if you don't join, then you're a bastard. Or if you don't, you know, Chris Jericho's really illustrative, he's really funny, he's really quite the character. And I'm so glad that he decided to leave WWE. His talents deserve to be spearhead elsewhere, as does a number of different people, including one Adrian Neville. But a lot of you are going to get mad because I just called him by his first name. Despite what Michael Cole might think, he does have a first name. just because he calls him Neville doesn't mean that I have to. I think that that's disrespectful. Neville is... he's quite the entertainer. Let's put it that way. To see the evolution of this kid from where he first started to where he is today, the difference is night and day. The difference, it's clear as day, as a matter of fact, because before, he was a lot like Alexa Bliss. Alexa, who in her own right showed up, she believed in pixie dust and ponies and sparkles and sunshine and rainbows, and comes out with that glitter dust in her fucking hands, and she would go, I don't know, you know, she was weird, and then she would do that little twirl whenever she was coming out to the ring. I'll try to replicate it, hang on. And then she would do something like that, you know, like the thing. But Alexa Bliss, since then, has come a long way. From the tutu wearing, well, she was kind of overly feminine. You get it. Sparkles and ponies and, you know, little girl's dream. Neville was, in a sense, almost the same way. The WWE, however, wanted to keep him down to a certain extent. They wanted to almost like make him to wherever he was, and I've talked about it before. I remember talking about this whenever I was talking about Austin Aries. They wanted to do the same thing with Austin Aries. Aries, in his own right, who has faced many different adversaries, including people who are like 3 times his size. So to make Neville rather wrestle people who are his size, if not smaller, is a smack in the face to the man. As a matter of fact, it goes to show that his abilities could have been put to better use, because had he would have been facing people the size of John Cena, the size of Brock Lesnar, it would have shown even more how talented he is. But the WWE didn't see it that way. The way that they seen it is their weight classes. He needs to fight people in his own weight class. But if he's fought people far taller, and I'm talking wider, about as wide as my phone screen, need I mind you, about that big. If he's fought people like that before, why would you try to hold him down now? Why does it make sense? And it doesn't. Adrian Neville is an anomaly. He's almost like a bumblebee. A bumblebee is scientifically, how to say this? A bumblebee scientifically is an anomaly because its body is too fat to be able to fly with a wingspan about that small. Adrian Neville, Samoa Joe, Austin Aries are all anomalies, but in their own way. See, Aries is an anomaly because he can pick up people 3 times his size and plant them on their head. Neville is an anomaly because for a man that small to be moving that fast is almost unheard of. And Joe is an anomaly for almost the same reason as Neville, except for a man that big to be moving at speeds that he does move at, it's scary. I started this video by talking about the three main groups in AEW, however, and somehow went into a tangent about Adrian Neville. The three main groups of AEW are unpredictable. It's really hard to see where they're going with this, and especially seeing as though that I myself have never watched AEW. I'm just going off of what I've read off the internet and seen videos of. I don't really know what to say because I'm unfamiliar with the members of each group. I'm unfamiliar with who's the leader of what group, except for, like, you know, the easy stuff. I mean, I just told you who the leaders were at the beginning of the video. Brody Lee, the Dark Order, he's the sanctioned one or something. Chris Jericho of the Inner Circle. Gotta love Jericho, I swear to God, every time he comes out there and cuts a promo and I watch it on Instagram, I laugh my ass off. The Inner Circle, the Dark Order, and the Elite. The Elite made up of... The Elite are made up of... I'm pretty sure it's Cody Rhodes is the leader. And this is all unpredictable, unlike other groups that we've seen in the past. It's a breath of fresh air, is what it is. I'd like to thank you all for joining me here today. No, I wouldn't. Get out of here. Bunch of losers.